Memory transcription subject, Ambassador Tarva of the Venlil Republic. Date, Standardized Human Time, March 22, 2137. The first Sapient Coalition convention felt like a trimmed-down version of the Federation's meetings, with the familiar markings of diplomacy I'd seen for years. These were the parties that I'd devoted my life to negotiating with, long before I knew the peaceful union in the stars was a lie. Today's agenda was centered around anything relating to genetic research, though I imagined the Durertan salvation would be brought up later. The United Nations was owed basic courtesy, after sparing Calqua, so I hoped the Avians had finally seen reason. On a personal note, Noah was present as my aide, though that was a bit reductive of his true purpose. I wished to try to see the species I'd known for years through his eyes. Humanity had cultivated an array of 38 races, more than just the ones who were recognized across Earth. The TACCAN representative's gray hide, hunched over his station, told me their polity was ready to work. The infamous Dr. Zarn who'd cheered on Sovlin wasn't indicative of the larger TACCAN species, who'd opened embassies to humans and had been ready from the start to stick it to the Kolshians. The iridescent carapace of the Varen ambassador was visible across from a Terran aide. Some predators were less than fond of insects, but this particular race had only ever gone from neutral to friendly. The Lettian diplomat, who'd always struck me as a little creepy, seemed to be hitting it off with an entire group of Earthlings. The Drilver attaché, unsurprisingly, was snoozing on his desk. For the more well-known members of the audience, the Crocodile, Harchan, and Tillyfish had chosen spots in the back of the hall, avoiding wandering UN diplomats. At the opposite end of the spectrum, Yodel Ambassador Lalo appeared to be flaunting battle footage to anyone who would watch, making exaggerated gestures to accompany his boastful rhetoric. Mazik Vice President Kipa had allowed a human colonial leader from Liberty's Bastion to share her station, which showed respect to the Terran settlement in Qua's vicinity. The distant Paltans were flipping through a leaflet on their refugee problem, clearly wanting to insert it into next week's agenda. The Fissans and Neviks were full-on hawking deals on materials until the meeting started. If anyone would have told me when Noah first landed on Skalga that all these species would be sharing a hall, and things would seem so normal, I would have laughed. To think Terrans would be so ready to leap into diplomacy, despite their checkered past, it was unthinkable from what we all knew of them. Noah offered a gentle smile. It's nice not to have to worry so much about appearances, love. Honestly, the United Nations is probably happy on the conflict of interests issue, from my side, I mean. The Venlil were special circumstances, or our people would have never allowed an astronaut who's very close to the governor to be handling our business. Yeah, I suppose our connection was a diplomatic dilemma. Hopefully Governor Veln doesn't prove too much to manage for your successor. He's ambitious. Veln is shifty, but two can play that game. If he wants to try to outmaneuver a genuine human diplomat, well, he doesn't know what he's in for. The Venlil people didn't know how lucky they were to have someone honest, feeling, and sincere like you in office. Heaven knows, I wish we had heartfelt people like you filling positions of power back home. Earth will never forget what you did for us, and I'm glad we have you here at the SC now. You care. Of course I do. That's why when I heard from some Terran counterparts that you wanted to talk about various gene edits, namely research done to reverse the cure, I made sure to put the Venlil's tampering on the list. And I invited a guest to speak about what affected humans have gone through. I appreciate what you're going for, but this might not be the most sympathetic audience for a predator wanting to regain the ability to eat flesh. I'm surprised the UN saw that as a good strategy. Who did you invite? Me, a gruff voice echoed behind me. Noah failed to mask his obvious surprise, as he cited a red-haired human with a twisted nose and crisscrossed scars below each eye socket. Marcel Fraser was almost as well known as my astronaut, after the footage of his torture was broadcast to billions across the galaxy. If any Terran could be a sympathetic face to the Sapient Coalition listeners, this was the one. There were some controversies around what happened with Slanek, of course, but by all accounts, Marcel was a long-suffering, herbivorous hero. He was also well acquainted with how Venlil thought, and could frame why it was important to seek remediation, even for a vegetarian. It's all part of my plan, because what the SC really needs to talk about is beyond cured humans. It's about any omnivores forcibly converted into herbivory who want to go back. That idea would be a touchy subject, given how taboo predator diets had been throughout our lives. It took concentrated efforts to turn a blind eye to how Terrans operated. The first time Noah had a ham and cheese sandwich around me back at his place, I'd felt my years of brainwashing try to desapientize the man I loved. On the bright side, at least it wasn't blood-soaked, carcass munching like I envisioned that first time on Alpha together. If someone told me I'd accept nourishment of that kind, years ago, but it didn't matter. I understood the nutritional requisites some species had, and whether the intent was to go back to omnivory or avoid allergic reactions, other SC races should have a say in their diet too. I extended a paw in the human handshake gesture. Marcel. I'm delighted to see you again, under much more pleasant circumstances than on war-torn Earth or the prior time at the outpost. I'm glad to be doing something to help, Gover, Ambassador. It does sting a little that all of these listeners will just see me as the poster boy of human victimhood, Marcel sighed. I'm here to make everyone feel more sorry for me than they already do, right? Put your chin up, unless you feel sorry for yourself. The Federation has done shitty things, and several of those shitty things happened to you. You are the perfect spokesperson for millions affected by this. But why we're really here is to fix this mess, and you're here to convince them it needs fixing. Like it or not, you have sway over choices made at the highest echelons of government. Clear all your uncertainty and decide how you plan to use that power. Noah whistled in appreciation. What she said. It's good for us to see you here, standing tall, from where you were not too long ago. You don't just earn pity, you're a damn inspiration, a testament to the human spirit. I don't know about that. I've always tried to do right by people, and believe me, there'll be no theatrics needed for what this cure has taken from me. Marcel forced a smile, shoving his hands in his pockets. His hazel eyes swirled with brooding intensity. I volunteered for the prototype antidote. The risks are worth it to me. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate all our researchers, but having the archives spell out exact gene edits is what made it feasible. I wonder whether you'll pursue reverse mods for the Venlil. I tilted my head to one side. Yes, Noah and I were just discussing that. It's definitely something almost every Venlil can agree on, and I have Veln's blessing to declare our intention to move forward with the reversal. On the debate stage, he acknowledged that we both see this as important to our people. The UN has been tabulating which changes need undoing for us since the archives. That's awesome. I wish Slanek was here to see that. He couldn't stand seeing what they did to you. My astronaut scowled. I don't support what your buddy did, but I get it. It infuriates me that Tarva's lived her whole life, deprived of basic things, because someone hundreds of years ago decided to kidnap her ancestors' children and transform their genome. It wasn't so bad until we knew what had been taken from us, I sighed. But don't worry. I'll do what it takes to see that future generations aren't shackled, for humans or Venlil. The stage is all yours, Marcel, if you're ready. The red-haired human nodded. No sense delaying. I'll be going, short and sweet. I offered a polite wave to the former UN soldier, who'd been cured during an incident at the Battle of Milo. What I hadn't told Noah when mentioning Venlil genetic reversal was the decision I'd reached for myself. With my safety on the line, I wasn't sure he'd approve. The archives files of 45G detailed the exact modifications the Farsal made, with unique specificity, even compared to info on the protovirus used for different cure bioweapons. That entire file cluster was a changelog for my species. The Terrans had run simulations suggesting they could reverse the gene edits for Venlilkind, but it might be difficult to persuade others of my kind to trust those supposed corrections. For starters, we would never enjoy the benefits of properly developed limbs or olfactory organs. Still, if we wanted to erase the farcel's impact on our society, the majority of the herd needed to choose to go back to our empowered selves. It was a tough sell when it could have consequences for us in the present, and entailed having our DNA altered by another group of aliens. The success of the reversal, and any side effects on newly grown children, wouldn't be seen for years. That left the other part of my plan. It was going to be one fireball of a topic to broach with Noah. I hadn't asked how the human felt about children. Obviously, it wasn't possible between the two of us, so starting a family never had a reason to come up. Noah would make a wonderful father, but even if he's somehow okay with this outlandish idea, it won't truly be his kid. Bloodlines are important to humans, as I understand it. Marcel stepped to the podium, clearing his throat. Hello. Ambassadors of the Sapient Coalition, it's an honor. I've always loved the diversity of life on my homeworld, and though finding it in the stars has brought a ton of suffering for me and my people, it is wonderful to see dozens of races that do share our vision. Maybe other humans haven't told you this, but we revered and feared extraterrestrials when you were the stuff of myth. I find that our fears may have lacked imagination. An attempt to destroy our planet, followed by a bioweapon designed to force fundamental changes upon us, bested our spooky sci-fi tropes. The Thafki ambassador raised a paw. Excuse me? You're Marcel, right? The one that was beaten half to death? Of course, I should have introduced myself. Most of you know me as the exchange participant who was taken prisoner, and got this face makeover from a Gojid's claws, with a complimentary 10 days of starvation. Fun times. What you may not know is that I was later dosed by an aerosolized version of the cure, which triggered a severe initial reaction that left me bedridden for weeks. Breathing in vapors of animal products, it can send me into anaphylaxis. I carry an EpiPen around at all times just in case now, even here. You're saying you're a forcibly converted omnivore, like us, Crocodile Ambassador Nuela chirped. Precisely. I'm here to lay out why that's a problem, a public health hazard for anyone who's had the effects of this bioweapon passed along. I was already a vegetarian, yet the slightest trace of anything that's an animal can kill me now. I can't live on my homeworld, around my family. I shudder to think how many unexplained incidents occur on worlds of fully cured species. You can have sincere intentions and never to go near predator food, but a bug accidentally gets in the meal or an animal brushes up against a crop you don't wash fully? Problem. It could be you, your children, or anyone you care about. Everyone's biology reacts differently. Forced herbivorism cannot be allowed to exist in a free society. Mazik dignitary Keepa looked displeased. I'm not an omnivore, but wouldn't undoing the cure mean people could eat meat? That really isn't acceptable in our cultures. Maybe it should just be left alone, and the cured peoples can be more careful with food prep, rather than all of us opening the door to dead meals. Look, I care about what I put in my body too. I always understood how you feel about predation, and how the idea of it sickens you. But if you believe in something this strongly, you won't change your mind just because you have the choice to change. You believe that these societies are moral and righteous due to dietary abstinence, yet they don't have the free will to do anything else, they're forced to comply. How is it righteous at all when it's the only path you can take? All the cure does is risk the lives of people who would supposedly stay the course regardless. I raised my tail. For my fellow delegates' information, Marcel will be on a human trial of a cure reversal drug, to test its efficacy. I can speak to the fact that farcical gene edits are never harmless, and always about controlling anyone who defies their indoctrination. Thank you, Ambassador. I've said my piece, but I wanted it to be clear how much suffering it's caused me. I don't feel that I deserve this. I don't feel that your grandchildren deserve this either. I'll take my leave, and according to my notes, you're supposed to have a short recess to discuss this? Please support safety and choice. The red-haired human ducked his head, and some of the more Terran-familiar individuals tried to make smacking sounds against their desks to imitate applause. It was always refreshing to see bits of human culture catching on. I appreciated clapping as an unmissable way to let the speaker know their words were appreciated. Part of me wondered where Marcel Fraser, and Slanek, would be if not for his capture all those months ago. Another aspect of my brain wondered where the Venlil would be now, had we never been turned into our present state. I didn't know if it would be a better outcome, but it would be more authentic. Marcel is right about none of the gene-modded species deserving this. We need to make this right for the next generation. I have to hope Noah takes what I'm about to say well. Hey, Noah. My chest was a bundle of nerves, though not in the same way as when I first accepted the binocular-eyed captain's hail. I'm sorry to spring this on you, but can we have a word somewhere private? There's something I need to tell you. The human flinched. Oh. I don't like the sound of that. Have I done something wrong? Are we breaking up? What? No. It has to do with what we're about to talk about when I take the stage. Please, just follow me. I scurried out of the meeting auditorium, finding my way to a private discussion chamber. Noah looked apprehensive, but shut the door behind him. What if he was offended by what I was about to propose, or despised the idea? Would he get angry that I recklessly wished to be among the first to have my gene edits undone, and bring an uncrippled child into the world? My ears bunched up with frustration, as I struggled to think how I would explain my sudden shift in future plans. The astronaut was growing more concerned by the moment, so I knew I needed to just spit it out. I'm getting the gene edits reversed. I want to be one of the first, to show my people they can trust it. Like Marcel said, the risks are worth it, to see what was taken from us undone, I blurted. Noah tapped his chin with his fingers. Tarva, you know I'll support your decision. You should have bodily autonomy. That said, it won't change anything about your present circumstances, now or ever. It's about the future generations. Is it worth the risk when there's no, offspring? Yeah. About that. Oh. I see. It's wonderful that you're thinking about motherhood, though I admit I'm caught a bit off guard. I know I should never say this aloud, but aren't you past birthing age? You know, haven't you hit menopause? Fuck, this is awkward. I recoiled in confusion. Menopause? I have no idea what you're talking about. Noah's expression became more flustered. It's, human women, they stop getting periods and being able to have children during their middle age? Gah, I'm going to stop talking. I really should have researched more about Venlil by now, but I didn't even think of that. That's not a thing for us, or any other species that I've heard of. I love you humans, but you're extremely strange on an anatomical level. Also, what's a period? Maybe you should talk about this with Sarah? I don't think I'm, qualified, in this department. But, I don't have a problem with you wanting children, Paris E. It's just, you know that's not something that could happen between a human and a Venlil. That's why you pulled me aside, right? Are you asking for an open relationship? Frankly, I want to be exclusive. I'm asking if you would be okay with me seeking a reverse-modded donor, so that you and I could raise a child, uncrippled and free of gene edits, as our own. If that would violate what you see as exclusivity or as starting a family. Noah was quiet for a few seconds. Sorry, I'm processing that. Tarva, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. If this is what you want, then we'll make it work. I'll love our little Venlil goober with all my heart. I'm so relieved that you're okay with it. I know it's a lot to ask, but I need us to be a part of building that future generation. Our legacy. I guess peace in the galaxy and saving the human race won't be enough of a legacy. Never hurts to add a little more. With you by my side, I feel like I can always go beyond what I ever dreamed was possible. Now let's go get the SC on our side. I can't wait to tell them all about our plans to restore the Venlil to our true selves. My human wrapped an arm around my shoulders, and I gave him a grateful ear flick for his unwavering support. As long as the Predator stood beside me, no challenge was insurmountable. Together, we returned to the main venue to rally our allies around the gene reversal program that would play a huge part in our future lives. Memory transcription subject, Onso, Yodel technical specialist. Date, standardized human time, March 23, 2137. The march to Alpha defied expectations, with the lack of open confrontation we faced. The Kolshan Commonwealth had a vast expanse of territory. As the original founder, their most storied colonies predated the Federation itself. Their population had necessitated spreading out across the stars, so even after a hypothetical conquest of Alpha, it would have to be seen whether the scattered billions would surrender. The tentacled bastards used every system of their official 20 light-year territory bubble, which was how their manufacturing power was so absurd. It was also why I expected us to be stopped by border outposts like the Gojits had, but those sat unguarded, with only automated turrets and lasers left behind. The stationary targets could be picked off at little risk to us. Within inhabited systems, FTL disruptors were running, which impeded our journey. We chose the pathing that traveled by the fewest settlements, but were forced to burn days in sublight travel. Wary of the Kolshans using humanity's tricks against us, we kept our own anti-FTL signals online. The last thing we needed was asteroids being warped atop us, or ships leaping right into the center of our ranks. It might have been possible to take the colony worlds, except that Kolshan bombers were clustered around their own planets. What was the point of that? I grasped that they only cared to defend Alpha, but this maneuver must have been with the intention to paint humanity as butchers. Perhaps it's a bluff, but even if we got the UN to agree to glass the colonies, it'd waste our munitions. Maybe it's some cold-blooded sacrifice to tilt the scales at the main event. Taking the outpost worlds by foot isn't viable, when we'll be lucky to successfully occupy Alpha. I couldn't imagine how the Kolshans on the ground felt, seeing their own government using them as hostages. Several humans suspected a trap in the planet's bounds, whether it be from planet-to-surface munitions, kamikaze bombers, or hidden orbital defenses. We opted to stick to the mission parameters, and limit our engagements before Alpha. I couldn't help but notice the bare-bones defenses by the backwaters, with patrols seeming to be cancelled. Was the Commonwealth planning to go out with a glorious last stand? Had the cut-off from over 200 allies caused them to conserve their numbers for their home system? Whatever the reason for the quiet deployment, it felt like the calm before the storm. It was strange that they'd expended so much manpower on failed boarding ambushes, though as the galaxy's most populous species, lives seemed to have little proportional value to them. The Kolshans knew we wanted to occupy their world, so targeting manned ships would mean those vessels needed repairs. What was the point of stalling our advance beforehand if they weren't impeding us in surrounding systems now? I couldn't figure out what their angle was, but they'd been buying time for something. Well, this is it. I verified the sensor calibrations, as we dropped outside the FTL disruptors around Alpha's system. I'll have a read on how many ships they have soon. Ralki, I hope it's not millions. They've always been hiding their true capacity. What if it is millions? Carlos can't exactly say, shoot them all, to that, Sovlin grumbled. Carlos scrunched his face in confusion. Why not? Do we have the fucking ammunition for that? Even this atavist Yodel can count bullets. Samantha swept her auburn hair out of her eyes. We've been planning to get these fuckers for a long time. Time to fix the galaxy's crazy alien problem. I've got a bullet with Melbourne's name on it for the first Kolshan to walk in my sights. Likewise, I'm doing this for Learn. We cleared those colonizers off our planet once, I said. There's nothing you can do to these bastards that would match the 1,000-year sum of their evil. Tyler snorted. First, I don't disagree, but it's not the damn Olympics. Before ya aliens ask, that's a big athlete contest with the shiny medals and the swimmers and the hurdles. We didn't ask. Huh, that's rich comin' from the living geyser of fun facts. See, much better name for him than atavist, Sovlin. Humph. If I have to fight alongside a total barbarian, I'm glad it's this one, the Gojit admitted. I never would have imagined how much I'd care about a yodel and literal fucking predators when I turned myself in. Though you all leave much to be desired, you're my crew. Samantha glowered at him. I don't know why I expect a racist war criminal to give proper compliments, but you're making me glad we're about to see action. Please dole out some "now shut the fuck up" orders, Officer Cardona. Fine, listen up, here's what I need handled. Onso, numbers. Sovlin, tactical suggestions, Tyler barked. Good luck. Y'all know what we're up against. The Squid Dies got home field advantage and they're packing heat. We scrounged up over 100k of our own ships, so that's the good shit. But it's us, a smaller number of yodel technocracy ships we could bring in, and another bit of sapient coalition padding. There's been calls to other powers, but we don't have them now, Carlos sighed. It'll be all right. Whatever they have waiting for us, I know tactics are on our side. Well, we haven't unlocked an infinite ammo glitch in reality, so tactics won't matter if they've got us too outgunned. Plasma has to recharge, and the rest of our munitions ain't gonna replenish on the fly. Onso, do you have the enemy's numbers? I straightened my ears, waiting for the inconclusive blips to solidify into a proper count. Our glide had almost brought us within visual range of the nearest ships, but there was a larger formation scattered through the system. Orbital ring by orbital ring, it became clear the Kolshians hadn't left any stop along the way uncovered. Pushing through to Alpha itself would mean vanquishing a brutal onslaught at every step, and I couldn't imagine other surprises weren't lurking for us. My readout sourced data from our vast array of vessels, running predictive analysis to fill in the gaps from vague, far-off points. My ears pinned back in unease, as I watched the total number of hostiles climb. Worst of all, a solid chunk of the foes in our vicinity couldn't be matched to known Shadow Fleet markers. There were an estimated 96,000 vessels from the manned, public Kolshian armada, and over 200,000 that were Shadow Fleet, a jaw-dropping number that dwarfed our attack force. However, I was watching the full enemy tally climb past 500,000 before it leveled off. The computer didn't buy that the rest were Commonwealth-made. It racked its data banks for other alternatives, including the simplest possibility that some of their 200 allies had come, despite the catastrophic cyber attacks. Yet the homogeneity of the ships suggested it was a single entity, which led my brain to a startling possibility. Which parties in the galaxy have that many ships? I'd assume it was the Arxer Dominion, except that I don't see how the Greys could have been persuaded to fight alongside Federation prey. Let's start with the easy news, while it's running a search for more comprehensive analysis, I said. We're looking at about 500,000 hostiles in system. Tyler narrowed his eyes. That's the easy news? Well, it's not a million ships like Sovlin was afraid of. Sovlin waved his claws angrily. Oh, 500,000 ships, that's so much better. Wait, what if Onso applied sensor filters by mistake? Maybe he's overselling it. The very first time we worked together, you accused me of that same shit. My work is damn good, good as any human here. If you can't see that, you're the never-pouched primitive. I'm sorry, who was the captain of a warship? Who's trusted for tactical advice? Captain Monahan? Technically, that's a correct answer, wise ass, Samantha laughed. I don't see a problem. We beat M with numerical odds against us many times over, 'cause the best minds are on our team. How is this any different? Carlos scowled at his fellow guard. This is it. Every trick they have up their sleeves, they're going to use on us. We expect some of those plays to be dirty as fuck. They also have defensive fortifications to support their ships all across the system. There's a reason the plan is to manually take over their moon's orbital defenses. The brass must think we can't get close enough with bombers. I flinched as my console flashed, confirming my suspicions. I'll tell you what else is different. 200,000 of the ships are from the Arxer Dominion. What? Tyler hissed. Sovlin's spines bristled with dangerous lividness. Those the heartless Greys do know who starved them, right? And after everything the Arxer did to us, to the herd, Alpha is working paw in paw with them? It wasn't enough that this all started because of the Federation, they have to keep it going? I know our suffering means fuck all to them, but the Greys and the Kolshians really are one and the same. Keep your head, Captain Racism. We know there's no bar that's too low for them. I can't say I expected this, but I also think the Dominion is less dangerous than the Shadow Fleet. We still have a mountain to climb, but it's now or never. When the other 200 species get back on their feet. Those numbers would be 1,000,000 plus, I finished. Insurmountable. Channel your anger, Sovlin, and use it to kill them all. The Gojid gritted his teeth. With pleasure. It's time to correct my final mistake, years of service to this lying, Sivkit-brained Federation. What's your tactical input? Tyler questioned. Sir, I feel that we should target these Dominion ships. No, this isn't solely due to my personal vendetta with those bastards. They're manned ships, but ones that are more competent than the Kolshian crewed vessels. It'll keep us clear of the lights-out drones too. Our weapons have the advantage, so we can cut the Greys down to size. Anso, do you agree? I masked my surprise at having my opinion solicited. I do agree. I don't know what these Dominion crews were told, but I'm sure several aren't thrilled with their present alliance. There appears to be a group massing by the nearby gas giant, attempting to spring an ambush if we leave them be. We don't want to lose their signatures, and have gravity fields muddy the waters. Then I'll advise the captain, she'll handle coordination with our allies. Find us a prime target on sensors, Anso, and center the viewport on them. Consider it done. As Tyler strolled over to Monahan's post, I brewed in my unvoiced doubts over our numerical disadvantage. It seemed like we didn't have enough ships to take the system. Under the circumstances, the best option might have been to circle back, and avoid a confrontation that was slanted so heavily against us. However, another part of my brain knew this was the best that the odds were going to get. Now that the Federation wasn't donning the guise of a peaceful organization, they could crank out more ships than humanity could with the sheer scale of their empire. If we let the Kolshians have time to get new manufacturing plants off the ground, there was no way for the Terrans to match it. It's impressive how quickly humanity ramped up their ship-making capacity, putting Earth's entire industrial might into overdrive, going from zero battle-worthy craft to thousands upon thousands, whether by slapping drives on donations from allies or by splicing drones together from scratch. That said, it's now or never for taking Alpha, and hopefully, the Federation, down. Tyler gave me a confident nod upon his return. My selection had been a Dominion bomber that was showing battle scars on its hull. Much like our own, the enemy craft had undergone repairs, but nothing could truly be put back to the same quality after it was broken. Other sections of our invading fleet were designated to separate tasks. Yodel technocracy ships were joining Terran drone advances on Shadow Fleet hideouts, pushing deeper into the system. The meager assortment of sapient coalition forces were challenging Kolshian crewed ships, pitting the two weakest links against each other. That last one seemed like a toss-up of who stampeded first, though I supposed it was derisive to think that way. Small laser station powering up from within the ring debris, I barked, spotting the warning on my screen. Captain Monahan pursed her lips. Don't deviate from our present course. Lock plasma fire on the Dominion hostile, and prepare for evasive maneuvers if we're fired upon. As our powerful railguns faced off against the Dominion's pair, I trusted that we had the edge on range, while lacking recharge speed and anti-evasion measures. The true advantage was the shield-breaking missiles, which were dumped into the gas giant adjacent enemies. Unless the Kolshians had done something so reckless as passing along their replicated technology to the Arxer, the Greys wouldn't have an answer. Unshielded foes were forced to pirouette behind cover of the planet's rings, where ice particles and small rocks absorbed several beams. We didn't have a clean shot, while they could pick their angle from a strategic location. To make us feel more surrounded, station-based lasers torched a path through Terran ships. They had enough energy to cut through several of our craft, shields and all, with a single blow. Our advance turned to address the troublesome planetary defenses, chucking any high-yield bombs we had in the station's direction. Its defenses were able to cause some premature detonations, though the indirect exposure was enough to clear its surrounding debris. That left a clean ticket for an antimatter munition to punch through, blowing the installation to Ralki's domain. While we'd been able to mop up that issue, I could see why larger versions around Alpha would be a major problem. The Kolshian homeworld must be a fortress. The Arxer picked the perfect location to set up shop, and compensate for their weaknesses. They might be lazy in the present day, but they're not stupid. There's no question why they've been able to terrorize the galaxy for centuries. We still have a long way to go after this, sir, Sovlin advised Tyler, amid nerve-wracked claw-chewing. They've been able to mitigate their losses, and we've taken some hits. If they whittle us down at this rate, all the way to Alpha, we won't make it. We need to rethink our strategy. I don't know, figure out why the Dominion is working with the Federation at all? I fucking hate the idea of working with them, but I don't see how we can take them on. Turning them might be the best tactical advice I can give. Officer Cardona looked surprised by that suggestion. Thank you for your objectivity, Sovlin. Intelligence back home has been apprised of the Dominion's arrival, but we don't have enough information to try any outreach yet. I'll be candid with you all, we could use double the ships at our disposal to have a viable chance. Wish we'd got more than 38 fucking allies, 'cause it's real David versus Goliath. Real, what? Little guy versus big guy. We just have to keep fighting, and pray for a turnaround. We'll take Alpha, or die trying. That might be bleak, but it's God's honest truth. With those ominous words hanging in the air, I felt inertial dampeners rushing to keep up as we zigzagged. Dodging plasma required constant surveillance of target locks and inbound munitions. Interceptors deployed in front of us, as an enemy missile homed in on us. Weapons had only just gotten our plasma back online, having to rely on kinetic turrets in the downtime. We fired off another shot, and a glancing plasma response from the Dominion caused a slight dip in our shielding. Finding cover was the best way to hold our own. The Terran fleet had deployed a few barrier walls to replicate the gas giant ring's advantage, but those could only absorb a few hits. It was nothing compared to millions of fragments, created by nature, to hide within. I squinted at the sensor screen for any useful insights to pass along, and my tail drooped as I spotted ship activity from the edge of the system. The Kolshians had more vessels at the ready, warping in to encircle us. It had looked like they vacated every outpost or colony garrison in their possession, but I suppose that had been a trick as well. While our Terran comrades had left a rear guard, anticipating this strategy, we were already stretched thin against 500,000 defenders. The idea of juggling more combatants and flanks would put an even greater strain on our resources. As much as I'd been excited to take the fight to the Federation, I wasn't sure this was a battle we could win, if the enemy still had more resources to summon. Onso, you alright? You look like you just saw a ghost, Tyler growled. I attempted to correct my downcast expression, but my body language stayed deflated. I did, ours. I'm counting 30,000 new Dominion signatures, freshly warped in at the edge of the FTL disruptor boundary. For every few we cut down, they could just bring in more. There's no telling how many ships they really have. That changes things. We have to win this fight, but no commander would advocate suicide for our fleet. If the other side's true numbers are still in question, this battle is already lost. I'll bring this to Monahan's attention, and maybe, like Sovlin said, we do have to rethink our strategy. I hope we can find another way. I'll keep you apprised. I ducked my head in acceptance, and watched the primate hustle over to the captain to impart the worrisome message. Optimism was becoming a colossal struggle, as we swerved across the battlefield to maintain our very lives. Once we found a path to cut through the Dominion's ring fortress, I had faith that we could start pushing our momentum in this arena. The question was how many engagements we could survive before our fleet collapsed under the pressure. If tons of enemy reinforcements were sitting on the sidelines, getting to Alpha might be too much of a hurdle for even humanity to surpass.